Welcome to the SpartanMag.com VCast. Jim Comparoni, Paul Konyndyk, Breslin Center, Michigan State with a huge victory tonight. Beat number 23 ranked Rutgers 70-57. Rutgers, has had some great moments this year. Went to Purdue, won at Purdue. We talked about it all week, what Michigan State was up against tonight. And Michigan State played well. Just 6 days after Michigan State was held without a three-pointer at Illinois, Michigan State comes out, goes 12 of 22 from three-point range, 54%. 54% from three-point range against the number three three-point percentage defense team in the country. The random nature of college basketball, you never know. We knew Michigan State was better than they showed against Illinois as a shooting team, although Illinois played defense differently than Rutgers did tonight. Credit to Michigan State, getting some open shots. Like you said earlier in the game, screened well, got some good shots, made shots, and played and provided a spirited effort that Joey Hauser described as a must-win tonight. And one team tonight played like they had must-win motivation, and the other team was playing like they were resting on some laurels a little bit. And that's a factor in college basketball. Tonight it swung toward the Michigan State team and Michigan State program.
I just wonder, too, if Michigan State came out and they played so terribly in that first 5 minutes, 2 easy dunks. And I just wonder sometimes if Rutgers is a really good team. That 13-6 record is deceiving, too, because they played a lot of those games without Caleb McConnell and without Paul McKay. Caleb McConnell is the best defensive player in the Big Ten, reigning Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. Mulcahy is a handful. He's a good point guard, and early in the season they were getting Cam Stewart or whatever his name is, kind of in the mix. This is a really, really good Rutgers team, and so I don't think they overlooked Michigan State. I don't think you can put a hole in someone as much as they did on the rebounding end and overlook them. I do feel like in past they've been so good on defense, but they've had some careless moments on offense, and I think sometimes they get away from what. I think sometimes they're disjointed and they get away from what they want to do. Rutgers 6 assists on their first 6 field goals. Now I don't know what they finished with assist wise. I think it's probably 14.
Yeah, 14.
No, they're one of the best assist teams in the Big Ten. 6 assists on but you're talking about like after that first 5 minutes, only 8 assists. I think Michigan State's collection of guards. I spent a lot of time this week talking about how good Rutgers guards are on defense, and they are. And McConnell is a great defender, and they are really good at creating steals. I think Michigan State's guards out-defended Rutgers guards tonight. I think Akins, Hogard, and Tyson Walker are super underrated. The fact that they did what they did, on tired legs, impresses the heck out of me. I thought this is the best defensive game that Jaden Akins has played outside of the first few minutes. I think Hogard played great. Defensive Mulcahy didn't allow him to drive to the basket like he's done in the past against Michigan State. Michigan State played with a sense of urgency, and what these guys did, you had so many guys step up and do things that we haven't seen necessarily. We've seen at different points in the year, but you had a lot of different guys do things at different times. Early, Trey Holloman's played some really good defense. Jackson Kohler, he gets going tonight. All of Michigan State's guards and wings hit threes tonight at a high percentage. Some of them were contested, and Michigan State's been punched in the mouth quite a bit. They keep on rising to the occasion. They played a really grueling schedule, and I feel like maybe the games that they played against Illinois and against Purdue, it prepared them for having to take contested jumpers and make them.
Well, I think a lot of things prepared them tonight. I think, first of all, it goes back 28 years. I think this is one of those program moments because Izzo knew that they were up against it this week, and he had so much respect for Rutgers. So he got them to dig down and bite down, and we've seen him get that out of them before. I expected Rutgers to win by a touchdown or more. Yeah. That's what I was expecting. And for Michigan State to come out and shoot such a good percentage and to get good shots, that's wonderful. Got out-rebounded, okay. That's just Rutgers being Rutgers. I thought Rutgers was messy on offense, and that's everyone loves Peichel, and he's a good coach. I'm not sure he coached a great game tonight. They were messy on offense, and that's where they kind of slid off the tracks a little bit.
Can I say Michigan State got lucky on offense too? A lot of times, we talk about what they shot. We talk about moving the ball, and they had a lot of assists, but there was a lot of times where Rutgers had hands in passing lanes, and they got deflections that went right to Michigan State players. Even some of the made threes, they weren't easy passes. They weren't like what we saw Michigan State do against Nebraska in this gym, where you got clean looks in the corner. even some of those like skip passes were like partially deflected. They went in low. They came in like, where guys had to reach behind them. Guys made tough shots tonight.
Yeah, if you're Rutgers, you're like, holy crap, this team can really shoot. Well, it was their night to make some shots, and that's the random nature of college basketball. That's part of it also. Michigan State, I also think some other things that came to fruition for Michigan State that helped them was mentally, I'm just guessing, they were able to fight through this and come back with another 2-day prep and 4 games in 10 days and fight through it and stay focused and not feel sorry for themselves because of what they went through in November, December. Been through it, survived it. Jackson Kohler was prepared for this 4-game and 10-day stretch based on what he went through in December and November as a freshman. Others as well. So Kohler tonight, I give Kohler great credit. Was it the Illinois game when Carson Cooper first surpassed him in terms of minutes?
Games.
All right,
Both
so
games.
The Illinois game was the first time that Cooper moved ahead of him on the playing group just for that particular game because of matchups and so forth. So we spoke with Kohler in practice the next day about it, and he was all bright-eyed about it. He says, I was super happy for Carson. Carson's been working hard. He did a great job for us. I was happy for him, all this. And I asked Kohler, are you getting a sense for, the urgency that's needed at this level to really have the game plan down? Because every little bit of slippage in the Big Ten is expensive. And of course, he was like, exactly, that's what it is. But he didn't slough it off like, I'll get around to that. He was like, yeah, that's the way it is, and I got to learn that, and I'm going to learn that. That was his demeanor. And, of course, Cooper played more than he did against Purdue, but with Kohler getting reset and reacclimated to what's needed of him, he came in early tonight. And from the beginning, Michigan State was down 14-5, and they cut it to 16-15 or something like that. And he had 6 of the 15 points. Yeah. The initial surge when Michigan State made that comeback, he had everything to do with it, and he never let up. And among other things, it looked like he was jumping a little quicker tonight, Paul. Is that positive?
I don't know. I don't think he's jumping quicker. I'll tell you what Michigan State did, and what I feel like they did, and the substitution stuff was really smart because he went into the game when Omar Rui was on the bench. And they went right to him, and they went to him like deep, and he was posted deep in the lane. Now, Rutgers has great size. They're more physical. They're bigger across everything, than Michigan State is. But they don't have depth at the center position. They've got a bunch of 6'8", 6'9" guys, but they don't have. Kohler can move some of those guys around. They don't have a backup for Amarui, so they don't. So they get the ball into him deep on the post, and I think he did a better job of in position, being in deep. Michigan State fed him in good angles, and he was ready to shoot. And there was no fear of rim protection there. That got him going. That 6-point burst that he had, and then later in the game, you saw him matched up one-on-one with Amarui, and he had the baseline jumper that was big, but he also had the jump hook over his shoulder against Amarui, and to see him do that, it was a progression. I think he got some confidence because of those early buckets when Rutgers Big was on the bench, and then I think he he fed off of it, and I think he rebounded well because I think Michigan State, it was a physical slog, and they had to a lot of guys had to throw their bodies into guys, and someone had to come up with it. But he did it. This was by far his best rebounding game. He had 3 blocks tonight, which is shocking that he would have more blocks than Cliff Amarui, the best athlete in the Big Ten. But I really think that Michigan State did a nice job of getting the ball to him in position to score. He did a nice job of getting up deep on the block and taking advantage of them not having a shot blocker on the floor. That was big. And,
earlier in the year, Kohler was getting his shot off, but his touch wasn't quite there. He was hitting things off the back iron a lot. And we said earlier in the season, he has touch. He just has to get acclimated to the speed and the length of the defenders and get that dialed in. Now you're seeing the touch starting to come around for him. And they needed that tonight. He scores 12 points. Michigan State with 12 three-pointers, and it was balanced three-pointers. They had 3 triples apiece from 4 different players. You have Hauser, 3 of 4 from three-point range. Walker, 3 of 5 from three-point range. Akins, 3 of 6 from three-point range. And the real difference maker, A.J. Hoggard, 3 of 5 from three-point range. When Hoggard, as good as a point guard as he is, when he's 3 of 5 from three-point range, it's going to be hard to beat Michigan State on that night.
And the first 2 that he shot, Rutgers wanted him to shoot those threes. It's just like when you look at who didn't score for Rutgers, and you look at a guy like Caleb McConnell, who's been around for a long time, but he goes 1 for 4 tonight. Michigan State wants him to shoot that ball, and Hoggard is the guy that Rutgers wants to shoot the ball because they want to keep him out of the paint. They don't want him to drive to the basket. But when he shoots like that, that's a big deal. Tyson Walker obviously still hot from the last game out, and Joey Hauser just is remarkable to me the way he continues to fight and grind and battle. because I really thought with the athleticism that Rutgers has, even though some of those guys aren't great, I mean, just defending a guy going to the basket, I thought Joey Hauser, because of how many minutes he's played, because of how athletic they are, it would be a problem tonight. He might be in foul trouble. And he was in foul trouble, but he found a way as well.
And little increments of his game continue to come around. He came in as a shooter a couple, 3 years ago, whatever. Started added some rebounding. We always heard Izzo talk about the passing. We've seen a little bit of that. But now you're starting to see him, hitting some crafty two-pointers, taking his time. Even earlier this year, I was like, anytime he puts it on the deck, It's not going to turn out well. Now it just seems like it's like he's just reading things differently, and the shot release is quick, and he's got that high release, and he's just a nice little weapon that lets it come to him, doesn't go searching for buckets, and everybody on his team appreciates him, and all these guys appreciate each other. It's a big win for Michigan State. Go ahead.
The other thing is, too, like Jaden Akins, when we talk about other guys like not scoring, Jaden Akins hasn't been a guy that's been hitting a lot of threes lately, and tonight was the night where he hit some big ones, and this might have been Jaden Akins' best all-around game as well.
And he had a nice, hammer action pass out here to Hogard when he hit that three-pointer. Right when Rutgers was within 9 with like 11 minutes to go, I think it was Akins that created that play and threw that pass along the baseline to him. That's what my note said. It said number 3 did it, but I couldn't really. My memory's not as good as it used
also
to be.
had that run-out dunk that was really huge. Rutgers was like, had cut the game to 2 points. Like Michigan State did a three-pointer negated by that one call, and it's just Rutgers hanging around. Michigan State starting to get out-rebounded. I'm like, oh crap. Michigan State's down by 10 on the boards. If they don't start making shots, it's going to be a problem. Jaden Akins gets that big run out. He had several steals tonight. I think he had 4 steals, and him and Hogard had a couple of those jump the passing lane type of things where they got 2 hands on the ball. Maybe some of those balls. We talk about Amarui not being as involved. Maybe some of those balls would have gone into him if Michigan State hadn't been as active out in the perimeter. But I really feel like. This was the best, under the circumstances, this is the best defensive effort by Michigan State's guards collectively against some guys that really do some things matchup-wise. Mulcahy, feasted on Michigan State, driving to the basket last year, in a big win at Rutgers. He couldn't miss at the rim, but then he was also throwing lobs and stuff to everybody, and he's tricky. Hogard could not have defended him last year like he did tonight. That was really impressive. And Walker going against a much bigger guy, the transfer, really
Spencer.
good player. Spencer, really good player. Walker continuing to show his defensive versatility, and these guys were in pain. They were hands and hips throughout the game. AJ Hogard started using the therapy gun on his legs like 7 minutes to go before halftime.
During timeouts, he's out here during timeouts doing the gun on his leg. He was getting cramps, like on the back of his shin or whatever.
We got one for the house for Christmas. It's fantastic.
Nice.
But anyways, what they were doing out there, Tyson Walker, like the first possession of the second half, he had his hands on his hips already. He was pulling on his shorts. So what these guys were able to do, suck it up and play as well as they did. That says I've been talking about this team being a mentally tough team, and people are like, oh yeah, they're not because they didn't win, they didn't beat Rutgers, they didn't beat Illinois, they didn't beat Purdue. But this team keeps on finding the ways to win games.
They showed it tonight.
And you look at a couple of the games that they played this year. I think of the game at Portland. Portland's not a great team, but if you lose that game, that looks terrible.
Yes.
Right? The game at Penn State, that was a huge game. Penn State had a huge chance to beat Michigan State.
It was right after the loss to Northwestern, right?
Yeah, right after the loss to Northwestern. Super tired legs. Akins is not all the way back, and they go and they play a Penn State team at Penn State that matches up with them very well. They find a way to win that game. This is another one of those type of games, and people are like, maybe it's not a must-win. But if you lose those 2 games, then all of a sudden that looks really bad for you. There's certain games you have to win throughout the course of the year, so you're not in a situation where like committees can make decisions and judge you, where you have to make excuses like this guy was out, that guy was out. Michigan State beats the most physical team in the Big Ten. Do it without Malik Hall. That's significant as well. Do it on their home floor. This was not a 17-point win or whatever the final margin was. This was a close game throughout. Michigan State found a way to close it out. Very impressive.
Yeah, it's a good point you make. The Michigan State was kind of on the ropes a couple times. Not really the season going down the drain, but as Scotty Hazelton would say, nut cutting time. And Michigan State backed into the corner a little bit there to mix metaphors and cliches and everything. And that is a sign of a team that responds to the coaches. Because, every coaching staff is going to say, hey, man, we got to bounce back and win this game. Well, are the players going to respond and be motivated or not? These guys are. It's important to them. There's good leadership. They're well. There's good cohesion. And those things show in the game against Portland, the game at Penn State, and this one is very much like it. If you lose 3 straight going to Indiana's playing well all of a sudden, then things can get really shaky. But this team is refusing to become shaky. And, the defense you're talking about, Izzo's really never been one to emphasize getting in the passing lanes and getting steals. He'd want to play good defense, box out, get rebounds, and go. And if steals come, okay. But with Walker being a seasoned senior and, Akins just having that plus quickness, these guys are getting their hands in passing lanes and getting steals without selling out to do it. Now, Brandon Dawson used to go for steals too often, and he would come up empty too many times, and it drove Izzo crazy. These guys are getting steals without getting undressed. There's a lot of value there, and Akins has all kinds of ability. But what you're seeing with what you're seeing with Hogard and Walker is an old backcourt, old in a good sense, like Villanova old. When Villanova used to get those old backcourts, veteran men. I mean, Tyson Walker's a man. He's a thin little guy, but he's a man. UConn done it this way. Hogard and Walker have that, and then they've got this explosive wing coming around, coming with them, and those 3 are coming strong, and it's a lot of fun to watch right now.
I like to play. I know Malik Hall's not out there, but I like some of the things I'm seeing on the bench from players. They're getting on other players when they need it, but it's not derisive. It's like, hey, man, you're better than this. You need to do this for us. You need to do this for.
You see Malik Hall do that?
Yeah, see Malik Hall do that. I see Tyson Walker is getting more vocal. There's times where Tyson Walker's chirping back at Izzo, chirping back at assistant coaches, and he's earned that right.
And he's learned that that's okay here.
Right.
And Walker. Remember last year when he had that beautiful shot, his percentage was good, but he turned down shots? Not turning down shots anymore. He knows it's okay to go ahead and hunting for him. Last game against Purdue, he doesn't intrude on it, but if it needs to happen, it can happen. And all those little things are chemistry parts that are coming together for a puzzle here in mid to late January that are positive.
I find it interesting that people think that Michigan State struggled from shooting outside against Illinois, because I don't think they did. I think they didn't take shots because they got shots at will. Well, in the inside the arc. And
Illinois wanted to play that way. They're playing an analytics game. Give credit to that. But Michigan State so much is predicated off ball screen. Right. And Illinois, more than any team that they played, came out on ice to the ball screen. Wouldn't let you come off that ball screen. So Michigan State would flip it and turn it down. So Illinois was funneling you to the elbow free throw line area and giving you that shot, right, whether it be Hogard or Walker.
My point is on that is it's not like you're in a situation. I mean, every time you play a team, you're going to take good teams take what they're given. Michigan State took what they're given against Illinois. I don't think that was, to me, what I mean by that, I don't think it was indicative of a bad shooting team. I think Michigan State's been a good shooting team from outside all year long.
You need to, against a team like Illinois, if they're going to give you those free throw line jumpers, you got to hit 55% of them. And Michigan State didn't.
Absolutely, I agree.
And analytics, they're shooting threes. They only made a couple at the end, and that's what Illinois. That's what extended it at the end. On that night, those analytics won. But over the course of a 7-game series or something, I'm not sure. But if you're going to play Illinois the way Illinois did, and you're going to roll the dice that Walker and Hogard are going to miss those 15-footers, it happened on that night. But more often than not, I wouldn't be comfortable playing Michigan State that way. Now, so Kohler, the other thing with Kohler playing well, he took Matty Sissoko's minutes in the late going. That just happens on this particular night. Doesn't mean it's going to be like that all season. Like Izzo has said for years, the players determine their own playing time. And Kohler was playing well, and Sissoko gave up a couple rebounds, just seemed a little step out of it here and there. And Sissoko's been in a little bit of a slump. Kohler gets his chance, does well. Carson Cooper was solid. So they've got some playing cards there that are working nicely for Michigan State right now. They're building off of that. Kohler played crunch time minutes in the last 4 or 5 minutes. Kohler played some at the 4 also when they went 2 bigs. So these are things that we had never seen before. We'd never seen Kohler play late stages. We'd never seen him play the 4. I'm not saying that, and Cooper played some 4 also. I'm not saying that's great or something they'll be doing long term, but Michigan State did some things and kind of had to do some things tonight they hadn't done all season, and it worked out well. I give him credit for the resiliency there. Now, Pierre Brooks had a chance to play early. Really struggled in the first half on a couple of things. He gave up enough, and Izzo was asked about it after the game, and Izzo mentioned, Brooks, he plays defense on a guy. His guy shot it, right? And he didn't box it out, and his guy got the offensive rebound. And I was watching, and it seemed to me that Izzo was letting other assistant coaches and even Malik Hall do the coaching of Pierre Brooks when he kind of messed up here and there. But when that happened, Izzo was on him, took him out, and Izzo really lit into him. Because Pierre Brooks, like we talked about in the last VCast, he had a chance early in the season. Now Malik Hall's out again, so it's his chance to get in and earn some trust. And he goes in and doesn't box out. That's a 7th grade assignment situation, and it's not like he's defiant, and it's not like he's casual. I just really think he kind of fogs out. But those things are the things when you do not have the basketball that he has to get better at. And if you fog out and you're not very quick, that's a bad combination. And I know he scored double digits earlier in the season, and he scored a nice basket at the end of the first half, just before halftime in this game. And Michigan State would love to be able to get his offensive abilities off the bench, but he's not going to be able to provide that if there's slippage in other areas, and the slippage continued tonight in the first half.
You can't do that when you got an athletic team. It's tough enough when Pierre Brooks and Jackson Kohler are coming in at the same time. You just can't do it. Pierre Brooks I will say he is casual, because he doesn't. To me, casual is falling asleep and not paying attention. He falls asleep. He's so sleepy when he comes in. He's looking in the wrong place a lot of times on defense.
I think that's fog.
Casual fog, whatever. Okay.
And then the one time when his man went around a screen, and he took forever to get around the screen, and like Tyson Walker, the third man over, comes over.
I would say, I honestly don't think there's much difference between being casual and being foggy. Yeah. It's bad basketball. Michigan State deserves better than that.
It's precisely what they need him to tighten up on, so that he can show his offensive talent.
Hey, listen, there is no reason why he should be playing a lot of minutes over a guy like Jason Whitens, because Pierre Brooks hasn't shown. You can go back to a couple double figures games he had over in Portland, but like I asked you, I was like, when's the last time he hit a 3-pointer? You got to go all the way back to the Nebraska game. So he's not giving you. You can't make that argument that I don't like hearing people make, but sometimes I think there's stuff to it. Okay, are you giving as much as you give?
Yeah.
Give up, and he's not. And
you know what? You can see it pains him. It's like he wants to do well, but we said back in October that he was going to have a hard time.
I don't know what he wants to do well. He might want to do it now, but I would argue, and I think Izzo would argue this too, is you can't tell me you want to do something now if you didn't put in the work over the summer to get to the place where you can do it. So, I felt like he came into the season out of shape. I still feel like he's out of shape, and he's the guy that had the summer. He doesn't have that Jaden Akins excuses. I missed 2 months. Jaden Akins missed 2 months, and
different body types.
I understand what I'm saying. Okay, exactly my argument. A different body type, so he should have been in the weight room, should have lost weight. He should have tightened up his body like Joey Hauser did, and so he can get to the point where he can move.
That's all right, and it's all very disappointing if you're a Michigan State fan or a member of the Pierre Brooks family. But the part about not boxing out a guy is a 7th grade mistake, and that's where Izzo just couldn't accept that. And he came out, Whitens went in. So I'm sure Izzo really got into him, and I think he went back in, because he finished the first half, and then 90 seconds into the second half, Jaden Akins didn't get a scramble rebound, so Brooks went back in. It's an equal opportunity situation, and Brooks was I'd have to go back and see, but I didn't really notice any big problems on his behalf in the second half. But by that time, Kohler's playing well. They started doing the two bigs a little bit here and there, and then Trey Holloman was starting to get some playing time, and Brooks, I don't think in the last 17 minutes he was not part of it, but they've told him over and over what they need him to do and the slippage areas that need to be tighter, and he didn't make progress in that area tonight. And it's a time in which Michigan State needs him to, with Malik Hall out. And we said back in October it's going to be hard for him. He's going to play a lot of minutes early in the season with Akins out and Malik Hall later when he was out. But we said back then it was going to be hard for him to maintain those type of minutes, because when those guys came back, that was going to go away unless he really ratcheted it up. And instead, it hasn't gone that way. And this team could really use him to play better. But you're getting into January, and at some point, you're going to have all your players back, and he's going to end up playing 3 or 4 minutes like he was last week.
Yeah, you can do that. You can do what he did on defense against a team that's not shooting well, that misses open shots. But you can't do that against a team like Purdue.
Yeah, going around those screens tonight.
You can't do it against Illinois, a team that's
you can't do that against Davidson. Last year against Davidson, if he was trying to guard,
chasing
around screens. and he's kind of bouncing up and down and just not as quick. That gets back to getting in better shape, which he is working on. I was at practice last week, and after practice he was on one of that stair. They were working on him with that, so he's putting some of that work in.
Great. It should have been done in the summer. I mean, it should have. It's something that's been a 2-year process, and I haven't seen guys that have put their effort in. We've seen guys that were a little bit overweight.
I think he's fluctuated because in June he had lost weight, and then by the end of the summer it was back on a little bit and back and forth. I don't want to kill the kid about it or anything, but it hurts me for him that he's not able to tune in that frequency and gain some traction. But this team is getting better. If Hall can ever get back, and you hope that when he comes back, if he can come back, which it looks like it's going to be the case, that it's not eggshells all the time. If he can come back and stay back, when he can get full throttle and Akins can get full throttle, this team can be quite good, especially with that guy coaching.
I'm not sure if it is going to be full throttle. I think you're going to see a lot like what you saw with Kyle Arns, as a senior, where he gave valuable minutes, and he was, without him they don't get to a Final Four that year. But I don't know if you can go and practice. I don't think Malik Hall will be able to go and practice. I don't know what he'll be able to give them, and it comes down to, his own, his ability to do mental reps and to give what he can do. I just don't. I would be, cautiously optimistic. You'd like to think that he could be the player he was just before he got re-injured, but that to me seems like a long shot. But anything is better than nothing as far as Malik Hall is concerned.
I'm a little more optimistic. I'm not predicting that he'll come back full throttle, but I think there's a chance he could come back and do what Akins is doing now. He's not the athlete that Akins is, but I'm not going to close the door on that. And I'll be eager to see what this team looks like if they can get there.
Absolutely, that would be then you've got a team that can do a lot of different stuff because the versatility aspect. And for Michigan State to beat Rutgers tonight, so many big guards. This is a game. These are the kind of games that you really wish you had Malik Hall for. Illinois, another one. Where they've got big personnel. It'll be interesting to see what Michigan State can do going forward. Going back to Brooks, I don't want to. I'm not going to say anything more negative. But right now, you look at the personnel that's coming in. You look like a guy like Cohen Carr. You look like some of the other big guys. This is his time where he's got to do it. If he doesn't do it now, he's not going to do it.
Yeah. So Michigan State, a great demonstration of resiliency and aptitude by Michigan State tonight. Program stepping forward. Michigan State was a team that was motivated, the team that needed to win, the desperate team, and they showed it, and they did it with finesse and some quickness, and it's really impressive, and it's a nice window to the future to see if they can follow up on this. They got it done program style tonight. Credit to Michigan State for that one. For Paul Konyndyk, my name is Jim Comparoni. You've been watching the VCast from the Breslau Center in East Lansing with the Spartans for SpartanMag.com.